Welcome to Soul Thrive, where we explore spirituality through healing trauma, shadow work, and applying the laws of the universe in order to master ourselves without the fear of the unknown.
All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode on the Soul Thrive podcast. This week, we have Palak with us. Palak, welcome. It's so nice to have you. Why don't you start off by introducing yourself to our audience?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here, and I'm excited to chat with both of you. So I am a mission-driven entrepreneur. I own a company called Embiria, and the entire purpose of my company is to really get people to slow down and savor their day-to-day moments in life. I like to say that when we're open and on vacation, we're just willing to meet people. We're willing to slow down naturally. We're willing to have new experiences. And I want us to be able to bring more of that into our day-to-day life, given how busy everybody is. So it started with me running in-person events to connect people and have them be more present and off their devices. And then now it's evolved into, I run a membership community for women so that they can drop in at any time they want, attend the events. And I also wrote a book called Beautiful Everydays, A Guide to Living in the Here and Now. So I've had this business for 7 years, and I'm hoping it just continues to grow into a global movement to get people to slow down.
Oh, I love that. I love it because I'm big on like collaborating, community, connection. Like that for me is a huge emphasis. And I think like we need more of that now more than ever. And I think what you're offering, and I like that concept too, is like, it's so true. When you're on vacation, you do make
I was like,
so
I'm a
much
different
easier.
person.
Exactly.
It
It's
feels
just
so like, hey, yeah, I'm from here, and like, let's go grab a coffee. But when we're like in our city and walking around, it's as if we're just like zombies and we don't register that aspect of connection or even just smiling and saying hello.
It's true. I wonder why that is. Like, I find my energy is more open. I talk to strangers. I go out with strangers.
Yeah.
Anything
We're
can
gonna have to
happen.
work on that.
exactly. And then you come into your day-to-day life and you're just closed off, and you think you have your friends, you have your routine, you're just
Yes.
like heads down. You don't even look up half the time because you're just like used to the streets that you walk on or where you're driving. You're not really like paying attention and noticing the little things. And when you're away, you notice every little thing. You're like, oh, it's so beautiful here. The trees are so gorgeous. The sun is shining. Look at that sunset. Let's stop and watch the sunset. Like, why don't we do these things in our day-to-day life? We don't have to wait for like the once a year vacation to do them.
Yeah. So I wonder what prompted you to start this business. I know you have a business background and you worked for, I believe you had roles at TIFF and Indigo. So like, did you have a crazy career and you felt burnt out and you felt like you needed to like, what was the story? I'm just curious.
Yeah, it was a lot of things sort of led up to this. And the first thing is that I actually never knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I actually really enjoyed my corporate jobs. I worked for some really cool companies, working for the film festival. Like, it's super fun. I was doing it for 4 years. Indigo Books, I was doing a lot of their author events in store and like fun perks for members. And I really enjoyed my jobs. But when I was at TIFF, I found myself getting close to feeling burnt out, just the volume of work. And I also found myself being in my late 20s and thinking, is this it? Like, is this all I'm going to do in life? Am I going to just switch from job to job and just, I didn't really see the path in like 30 years. Where would I be? And so I knew I was meant for something more. And at the time, being in Toronto, it's a busy city. I was craving community for myself. I found I would go to fitness classes and I wouldn't really talk to anybody there. Like, I'd want to talk to people, but they'd be in and out so quick. And it would be like something to check off your list instead of hanging out and getting to know one another. And so the first idea came in terms of, why can't I create spaces for people to connect on a deeper level that doesn't feel rushed? And so I decided to throw an event and host an event. And I didn't have like a business name or anything. I actually left my corporate job and I went all in right away. And I had a goal of doing 10 events that first year. And I ended up doing 50 because there was such a demand.
Oh,
for
wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that really gave me the like momentum I needed to realize I'm not the only one craving community. I'm not the only one seeking connection. And so there's lots of things that sort of led to that. Those were the ones that were closer to the timing. But then even looking back in my life, there's lots of events that led me to a deeper why in terms of why I want people to slow down.
I love that.
Right. And tell us what happens at one of these events.
Yeah, the events they're honestly magical because, and I'm not just saying that because I host them, but I create these spaces. I think there's part of it that comes naturally to me. I love connecting with people and I'm a natural connector, but at the same time, I have this sort of signature approach where I think it's really important as a host to be responsible for how you make your guests feel. And whether that's a birthday party, whether that's an event, whether it's a panel that you're going to for work, it doesn't really matter. It's about the feeling that someone gets from the moment they either receive the invitation or see the ticket link, and then the moment they walk in the door. And I find too often that people miss the mark on events. They think, well, I'm hosting it for a reason, like there's a birthday or we're celebrating something, but they're not thinking about how that guest feels when they walk in. And for me, I want them to feel welcome. I want them to feel like they belong. I don't want them to feel out of place. I want them to know it's a good use of their time. So at these events, we do all sorts of things. I've done anything from dinners to brunches to cooking classes to yoga to wellness activities, anything that sort of makes you want to put your phone down and connect with each other and connect with yourself. So now I've run about 400 of them over the years. And so I've done a lot. I've done ones with brands. And it really has just taught me that women especially are looking for spaces to be able to be open and connect.
Yes.
So if you create the right environment and you curate all the little details, give them the permission to just naturally slow down and want to do that. And so it's been really beautiful to just witness these things unfold.
And I'm curious, how do you encourage people to sort of foster those meaningful conversations, because they're all strangers, right? Because we've all been to awkward birthday parties. We've been to like networking events. We've been to yoga classes. I've even been to some, community events where I'm like, oh, I come in and I'm like, I don't know. I still felt like it was awkward to just like come up to people. So how to like, what makes your events, maybe like unique, or just allow people to sort of, connect with one another?
I've realized it over time. It took a while to understand that I do have this sort of signature approach that I take to each event. And it's really important for me that someone doesn't ever feel that way. And I've attended many events before just for fun, or influencer events or media events, and I've gone to them. And to me, I want to create the opposite of what people are typically doing, because I've seen these events and I know people are there for the content. But the biggest miss, I think, on a brand is when you have people just taking a bunch of content, but they're not authentically connected to the brand. If you take the time to slow down and make them feel welcome and connected to one another, they're going to have such a memorable experience that's way longer than any 10-second reel is going to give them. And so I like to curate my events that way, where I will think about things even before the event starts. So I will have my description for my event will tell you exactly the role that you're going to play when you get there, in terms of, is there an expectation from you? What are you going to do there? What can you expect once you arrive? So I'm like prepping you in advance of, you're already thinking about it in your head. Like, okay, this is what it's going to be. This is what I'm going to wear. This is what it's going to look like. So you get an idea. And then when you get there, I'm welcoming like every single person with a hug. I'm introducing you to people in the room. Sometimes I actually introduce people before the event starts, because I'll say, oh, like, Christina, you should meet this person. I have this person in mind. I think you should definitely talk to them. So I will have all those things in mind. And it really does take time and effort, but it can go such a long way, because I think that's why women have come to trust me and know that like the events are just always going to be that quality. And so it's nice to be able to build that reputation.
I agree with that. Even like the most recent events, like I've done events before, and I tend to do like, when I do like a mediumship event, or when I do like, just like a healing event or a workshop, like I kind of get some of like the committee members or whomever, and I'm like, okay, like anchor in, go talk at this person, have this, and I'm like, it is on, you are on, and it can be exhausting also then talking to spirit at the same time, right? Because you're facilitating two different experiences, but it does make a huge difference. It does make an impact. It makes people feel like they have a sense of belonging in the environment, and like they're part of that experience. And it's so beautiful to see, especially if there's like an intimate connection, like a friendship. I have clients of mine who met through events, and they go out for coffee now, or they'll text each other, or like, oh, I was in so-and-so, and I said dinner not too long ago. And I was like, oh yeah, like that's really nice. That makes me feel good, So I'm sure you feel a huge sense of fulfillment knowing that you are bringing this type of experience in people's lives. Because, we do struggle with loneliness. Do you think that maybe there was an aspect of you that wanted to fulfill that aspect, because maybe there was an element of like your need to belong, or your need to feel a sense of like the loneliness, or like that type of connection from that point of perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can take it further to like share a personal story where when I was in high school and I was 15 years old, my dad passed away of a sudden heart attack. And
Mhm.
so for me going through that event, there were two things that came out of it. The first being obviously no one understood what I was going through. I was
Right.
15. I didn't have like friends that could really support me through that, nor did they really have to or have the tools to be able to. But I even remember being at the school and going back after 2 weeks, and the teachers didn't even really know how to
Yeah.
like handle it. And so I remember feeling lonely at that time because just no one could relate and kind of understand what I was going through. And the second thing that came out of that was me understanding that obviously life is so precious and short. And unless you go through a tragedy yourself or you're directly affected by it, only then does that become a reality where you're like, oh no,
Mhm.
it actually is that short. Like it can happen to anybody. One day the
Absolutely.
person's there, the next day they're not. And so that's when it really occurred to me, why aren't we taking the time to slow down and connect with each other, find a sense of community, and then savor those everyday moments because they do matter. Like the things you remember when you're 80 are not how hard you worked or the business you
Mhm.
built. It's who you spent time with and what you did in your days that really made you feel fulfilled. And so for me, that definitely became something where I was seeking that sense of community, the sense of belonging, the willingness to like stop and just observe my surroundings and be present to whatever I was doing. And so when I left the corporate world and started this, it was a beautiful thing to watch women be able to have that space for themselves. And as you said, friendships come out of it, like the amount of friendships that have formed. And then that's why I ended up launching a membership community because they all
Mhm.
wanted to stay in touch with each other after the event. So now they go for dinner, they go for walks, they go and like
Mhm.
do class. Like two of them today are going to a candle making class together, and they
Oh,
like
nice.
message me saying, "Oh, we can't wait to do that." So it's really amazing to witness that connection come to life.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's such a gift that you can offer people too, considering, like such a tragedy, like losing your dad, but I'm sure like what a tribute to kind of be like, I'm like living life and connecting and like
Yeah,
feeling a sense of fulfillment. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
thanks.
I think I can relate to that. I think you can too when we go on our retreats. Because funny, I think in the same year I started a wellness retreat company, and I think it was for the same reason because I wanted to, as we talked about, I wanted to incorporate more of that spirituality into my
Mm,
life because I had a busy career in marketing and I was always go 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 and do and in my masculine energy, and I
yes.
just felt that I was missing that feminine energy and that connection and closeness with a community. And what better way? I mean, look at
Mhm.
how many people
Oh
we've
yeah.
brought together over the years, but we have a longer time, obviously,
Yeah.
7 days, 9 days,
Yeah.
but we go deep. We go into
Yes.
personal,
Oh, I'm doing
traumas and
everybody's
things,
shadow work and trauma work for like
and
10 days.
we
That's
become
amazing.
friends. I mean,
It's not even
Yeah.
friendship, it becomes family. Like
yeah.
it really does create this like bond between people because you're sharing things that nobody else really
Hmm.
knows. And like, you could be
Exactly.
around someone for years and they will never know you to that capacity,
Yeah.
right? So it's interesting, and I love what you're doing because like I said, I'm a strong believer of community, and it really does heal the soul. It's like on a soul level.
Totally. I totally agree with that. And I love that you're building that for people because it's when you immerse yourself, that really is, it's a sense of immersion. And since you're doing
Mhm.
it over 7 days, you're obviously going very deep, even just in terms of understanding who the person is at like a soul level. But I see it even from whether it's 2 hours or
Yes,
7 days, it's creating those spaces,
exactly.
being in community. And it is very healing. And it's exactly what you said in terms of the need for it yourself, where you're like, I love the thing that you brought up about the masculine and feminine energy because it's so true. I was the same. I was on this like hamster wheel of the corporate world in marketing roles, thinking like, I'm so productive. And it took me a long time to even understand to like undo the need for everything to be productive. And I still
Mhm.
struggle with that because I
Mhm.
don't give
Yeah.
myself the permission to rest. And now I'm like trying to build this business that allows other people to do that. So it's like a real mirror for me to be like, well, you have to live it because
Yep.
you can't preach all of this stuff and not be living those values yourself. So it heals me through the process too.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's so funny. That reminds me of like one of the best memes I ever saw on Instagram that said, even if you're winning the rat race, at the end of the day, you're still a rat.
So
And I was like, okay, no, I don't want to be that.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
yeah. But it's so funny what you say. I never realized how much I needed that face-to-face connection. I think all of us did
Mm,
until until the pandemic, right?
Yes.
So I know you
Yes.
started the business in 2017. So what happened? Like, did you pivot like virtually? Like, how did you manage that time?
Yeah, I love that you brought this up because it's such a strong thing now. So, having seen it from before, so yes, I started in 2017. I had done the 300 events sort of before the pandemic. The business was just starting to hit its stride. I was getting
Right.
contacted
And
by
then,
brands, and then the pandemic hits, and it's like everything in Toronto was shut down for literally like 2.5 years. I wasn't
Mm,
really doing in-person events. I would have to do them outside on like a farm. We did beautiful events like that, but it was not the same, obviously.
right.
And they so little compared to the like 10 that I was doing each month. And so I tried to pivot at the time. I was like running a few online experiences. It didn't feel the same to me. Like I was doing it and I was like, oh, this doesn't feel the same. So then I took that time. I wrote the book during the pandemic, which
Mhm.
was a beautiful gift and would have never happened if I didn't have
Mhm.
that time. So it was obviously meant to happen the way it did. But now coming out of the pandemic, the past few years, I started doing the events again and I realized that people are craving this like way more than ever because we're all so exhausted. We just
Mhm.
want spaces to just be ourselves and show up and have people accept us and connect because we miss human connection. And so
Mhm.
now the way that I approach it is I have the digital membership to keep you unified and connected around the world. And we do calls each month, but they're never more than an hour because I don't want you to exhaust yourself on a screen because you're
Right.
all busy on a screen all day. I want to use tech for good. So it's like creating these spaces of connection to connect people around the world. But then the goal is to take that connection offline. So then go make plans for a coffee, go attend one of our community events, go out there and do things in your community and don't just sit on your screen and like spend your whole time scrolling because that's not going to make you feel good. So,
What do you mean? I can't sit on my couch and just scroll my phone for like hours on end.
I mean, if it really lights you up and you dig deep and you think that is what fulfills you, then I say go
Yeah,
for it.
I
But
know, I
what I
know. But I love
hear,
it because it's
That's why I don't have TikTok. She's always sending me TikTok videos. I'm like, Christina, stop. I'm not on it. I
connecting.
can't.
It's like a joke. I'm like, hey, like, look at this is funny. Anyways, but no, it's true. Like, I love that. Sometimes I get like, for me, I'm a little bit of a hermit too. Like, that's the issue
yep,
because I'm working with energy all day, every day,
yep,
that I need time to kind of like not be around people because
yeah,
I'm giving so much, right? And I'm sure you can relate to this where you're
yes,
like, you're doing, you're giving, you're on,
yes,
you're performing, you're like trying to make the connections, you're trying to show people the value of that because in connection, there's so much regulation too. You're
you're
regulating
right.
your nervous system in a lot of ways. So, how do you find a little bit of that balance for yourself where you're also not like, I've got my life here too, where I kind of maybe want to close the doors and do my own thing?
Yeah, it's such a great question and a great point because I definitely feel that I pour a lot into obviously the work that
Mhm.
I do. But I will say, when it comes to even like the scrolling and wanting to just, because most people can relate to the fact that, after a busy day, you want to just like sit on the couch and do nothing. And if you're naturally feeling like a homebody or a hermit, then it comes so naturally to say, I'm just going to binge watch a bunch of TV and whatever. I
Right.
feel so good. I'm going to order my Uber Eats and I'm going to watch TV and like do that for 3 hours. And now
You're
I feel
describing me to the T.
Check out. She checks out.
but what I
I'm
find
just joking.
through the work that I'm doing and what I find is there's a misconception around what's truly fulfilling you and lighting you up and what
Mhm.
leaves you energetically depleted even more. And so you have to look at those activities and measure your state and see how you feel if, let's say, you use that time to read a really good book or connect with a friend maybe over the phone or go and play pickleball. Like it can be anything, do a hobby, go to like a clay class. All of those things, if you actually do them, you'll notice that they do fill you up in a different way. They're not draining necessarily. So
Mhm.
finding the things that are not draining for you, but often everyone's just mistaking it right now. Like I give so much energy to the day and there's so much going on. I just need to tune inward. Tuning inward doesn't mean distraction. So like
Mhm.
sometimes
Mhm.
scrolling through videos and binge watching and all that, that's distraction. And it doesn't always make us feel good because a lot of people are
For
also watching
sure. Yes.
shows that are like
Mhm.
dark and can be
Mhm.
really emotionally draining as well. So I always say, like, I'm looking at it now. I think we've lost that need to have hobbies, and I don't see as many people doing as many hobbies and
That's,
doing things
yeah.
just for fun, for the
Yes.
sake of fun, because we're always trying to either like make it productive or have it be a business, because then we're thinking of ideas like, can I turn this into income? Can I pursue this?
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of just like doing it for the sake of letting it light you up, letting it fill your cup and then going home feeling like so much better and you don't regret then going out and you don't feel that you were draining yourself by
Mhm. Mhm.
That's so true. We had more hobbies before the internet existed.
oh for sure
And we were
like
so much,
for
yeah.
sure
No. No, I didn't. You know what it is? It's like I love being actively out there and doing things and being like going for walks and like, doing little like activities and stuff. I do, but then there is an element of me that I can't because my energy is.
But a hobby could be like a puzzle. It doesn't have to be
No,
going
and that's what I
out.
mean.
Yeah.
Home life, like I
Yes.
love to clean and I like to organize and I
Yeah.
like to,
Decorate and,
decorate and like that's
Yes.
kind of like so it's like I like that. But then when when I want to connect, I'm like connecting. I'm out there, I'm doing things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
But-
I'm doing more of that.
And things are a little different for you though, because of the nature of the work that you do and the.
Yeah. But like I'm
Yeah.
open to like I've been saying to you for such a long time, which is like, but it being around authentic connection for me
Yes.
matters.
It matters. And you
I
have to be around the
don't
right
want to
people.
be around superficial connections where it's just drinking and then,
For the gram.
like, or
Yeah,
taking a
no,
picture for the
can't.
gram. Like I want to know you. I want
Yeah.
us to have a conversation and it's not just about your occupation. I want to be able to get to know you and make that authentic connection, which I think is what you're offering. You're offering
Yes.
that.
Yes, absolutely. It's like not about what you do as your identity. It's about who you are as a person
Exactly.
and digging into
Exactly.
what that means. And I love that you even said, like, I know I'm naturally, whether you're a hermit or a homebody, like that's okay. Everybody's
Mhm.
different and whatever works. And that's amazing to know yourself to that level, but get to know yourself and know what it
Yeah.
is outside of the work that you do. I remember I was living in South America for 3 months. And I remember for a period of time, I was in Brazil for about 6 weeks and nobody asked me what I did for work. And it was so interesting because
What a different
we
world.
know
Yeah.
each other. We were friends. We were hanging out every day. And then I
Right.
remember leaving, being like, oh, I got to go because I'm going back to work to the film festival. And they were like, oh, you work for the film festival? Like they had no idea. And
Yeah.
it's funny that that's the first thing I would tell people in North America, right?
Yeah,
Like, what do you
yeah.
do for work?
We're
And
always
so-
we're always meeting status. Like
Yeah.
look what I do and look
Yeah.
how I offer, what I offer, and like
Exactly.
and that's our comparables, which is so uneasy sometimes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the lives revolve around work. I think that now it clicked why I'm a different person when I go on vacation. Because I feel like when I'm here, my life just revolves around
Yes.
work. I think in the past, like even reflecting where I used to like live, like I would choose an apartment that's close to my job so that I wouldn't have to but it just feels like everything revolved
Your
around my whole
Yes.
identity
Designed
was
around
around
that. Yeah.
work.
A
And
lot
what
of people do that. A lot of people do that. They design their lives around their work. This
Yeah.
is why also I decided like let's do the podcast because I was like, this is my way of making connection. This is
her hobby.
This is my
Yeah.
hobby. I love this.
I love it.
I never thought I would, but
Yep.
this brings me so much joy, and you like doing it too. You enjoy it.
I do. I'm not saying I love doing all the editing afterwards. That's my favorite part of the hobby.
But yeah, like it's just opportunity to make connection on a whole
Yeah.
other level, which has been
Yeah.
fun. It's been really nice.
Yes.
for
And
sure.
the vacation thing that you mentioned actually is really that occurred to me when, I spent some time living in Italy as well. So the European lifestyle is all about that. And then I married
Oh,
someone.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
who-
Is he from Greece?
Yeah.
Is he like he's like? But
Was he born in Canada
Greece,
or-
is
He was born in Cyprus and then he lived around the world.
You
Actually,
literally
from
married
Germany.
like the leisurely life. Like
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
It really taught me because I remember at times where I was busy in my corporate job and he would be like, does this matter? Like I'd have a bad day or whatever. And he's like, in the larger scheme of things, does this really matter? And I was like, what do you mean? Of course it matters. And I was like, so crazy about it. And then I would like notice my energy and how it would probably look to him as like an outsider coming into this world of North American obsessed with work. And I really had to check myself. And it took me a while to like, learn. And like, I was traveling with him a lot and just opening up my eyes to different parts of the world. And he's like, the whole world doesn't operate this way. Like
Right.
you were raised this way in this environment, but it doesn't operate this way. Like,
But Toronto operates this way. And I find that it's so much more
Oh.
difficult when you're here. It's like you get sucked by the vibes and then everyone around you is doing the same thing. So you naturally end up doing the same. Well, when I go back home,
This is why we're creating community. This
What-
is why we're
yeah.
This is why you're doing what
you
you're doing.
you will never catch me out on a weeknight, on a school night past
Okay.
midnight. But in Serbia, they're drinking coffee at 2 a.m. And I'm like, what
totally.
the
And they're
hell is
with their
going on?
kids too. They're even with
Yes.
their
Oh
kids.
yeah,
like,
in Greece.
the
We were
middle-
there over the summer, and
They'll
they're
be
just-
there.
running around in the park, the platia, doing their thing till like 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. You're like, all right.
Exactly. And you see it in France, you see it in Italy, you see it in Serbia, you see it in so many parts of the world that are not this like hustle and bustle and just constant stress. And the reason being in Toronto, I really realized like it's something I'm trying to bring that lifestyle to Torontonians. Like the membership is global and anybody can join. But when I do host these events in person in Toronto, it's so important that women just see that and realize like you can create a different version of your life. The problem is you really are a result of like the 5 people you're hanging out with or your environment. And so when the entire environment is that way, you obviously feel pressure to just be that way and you don't really know anything outside of it. And the only reason I discovered it was when obviously just doing my own self-work, getting married to someone European, and then I also now spend winters away in Austin, Texas. So it's like now seeing a different side of living and realizing, oh, people say hi here. Like I go walk my dog and everyone's talking to me. And at first I was like, what do they want from me? And I'm like, oh God, I'm so Torontonian. Like, I'm wondering this. And meanwhile, they just want to chat about the day and the weather. And then we exchange contact. And then we have like a dinner that night because I get invited to like a dinner they're hosting. And I'm like, this is how the world can operate. So I need to bring more of that into these like busy societies.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm just here wondering. I'm wondering like, what is the biggest barrier to that? Like
energetically? Are you asking me this?
I am asking you. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like, is it this fear? Is it this fear of like losing financial status? And that's why everything is around
a multi like generational international country where we were, our parents came here to live a better life and find opportunity. And we're as millennials, boomers, our expectation was to provide that for them, to provide more of that extension of that. And so
to our parents,
to validate their journey,
their struggle.
Validate their
what do you mean you're having coffee at 2:00 in the morning on a Tuesday?
Right.
We lost everything and we brought you. Oh God.
So okay. It's an immigrant mentality.
It comes from that mentality, that perspective of we left this to provide better. So do that to validate our journey and our story.
But how was working yourself to death validating that? That's because the crazy part.
They were all hard workers. Did they want to do jobs that they wanted to do? No. They were forced in situations where even if they had degrees, they didn't operate with those degrees because that wasn't expected here. They didn't have that luxury. So they worked hard. When I look at my mom, I'm like, she worked hard. Same. To the degree where like her body suffered, right?
Oh yeah. Like even, Oh yeah. My parents, both of them, they immigrated from India, built a life in Toronto. And it was what they did in their lifetime is like, I can't even imagine. Like they came from like having degrees in India. My dad did a law degree then, and then he did his MBA, and then he came here and he first started working as like a security guard. And then he like built his way up and eventually he was an accountant. So then he eventually got a great job, but it took years and years. And then he did all of this. Yeah. And they both did. My mom had her own business and they did all of this to then give us the opportunity. But what I do know is because they did give us the opportunity, it is a disservice to not sort of undo that conditioning to say, thank you for giving me this, but also I'm going to honor the fact that I have to like enjoy my life. And for me, seeing a parent pass away early and not having him around I think he would have wanted me to enjoy my life.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, for sure. I
have to undo some of that because they were also
conditioning your belief systems, right? Exactly. Like, because you want also the stability, you want the financials, like that aspect of what they struggled with as well to provide a better experience for them too, So it's like very
complex, but it's inner child but that financial stuff is like, I feel like that's the underlining thing because they all came here for a better life because finances were a problem where they came from.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes, you're going to have to sit with that one. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And it affects all of us in different ways. And we're all just navigating life now,
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about your book.
Yeah, so Beautiful Everydays is really something that was born out of the fact that people come to my events and say that they felt really grounded and present and just loved that they were like savoring the moment in front of them. And they would ask, like, how do I feel this all the time? Because I love that you create these events, but I want to feel this in my day-to-day life. And when the pandemic happened, I realized that I was doing a lot of these activities naturally. So one of the activities in the book is cafe at home. And it's funny because I don't have TikTok, but I've heard in the past little while, like it's like blown up on TikTok. And that's not because of my book, but I had
Okay.
this idea like 5 years ago when I was
Okay.
doing it in my house. And me and my husband would just like, it was the pandemic. We were like, I was obviously baking a lot. And then we would just like turn our living room into a cafe and like
Oh,
play
I
French
love that.
music. And it was super cute. And we were creating these little moments in
Right.
our day-to-day life. And I was like, why can't we do this all the time? Like, why do we need a pandemic to do this? And B, why does it need to be like this grandiose thing to make us feel better? It doesn't have to be the vacation. It doesn't have to be I'm moving or getting a job. It can be like your day-to-day moments. And so the book is really based around this idea that there's over 30 activities you can do in there. There's photography, there's instructions on how to do it, simple ways that you can just create that beauty, joy, and fulfillment in your everyday life. And you can do it with a partner, you could do it on your own, do it with a friend, do it with a parent, and just like allow yourself to flip to any page and be inspired by it and realize you have everything you need to feel fulfilled within you and within your home. You don't have to seek externally. You can actually find it all within yourself. And so it's meant to be a timeless book that lives with you forever.
I love that.
That's
That's
amazing.
beautiful. I love that you just, your imagination, your creativity, you put that in there and you've gifted that to everybody, which is such a beautiful thing.
Thank
I have a
you.
question. Last
Yes.
question. When is the next event and where?
Oh, good
Yes.
question.
Maybe I want to come.
Yes.
I would love to have you at the
Yes.
event. So the next one will be the next public one because I do events as part of the Embiria Social Club all the time. So the membership community. So if you're part of the community, you get access to the events first before anybody else. And the public one that I'll probably do is in March. I'm planning to do a really beautiful spring brunch to bring everybody together and just
Okay.
Oh, we're
a
gonna
Get dressed
Sunday.
up and go out.
Yeah, you
come
get
out. I
dressed
love
up.
brunch. Brunch is my favorite thing.
Christina doesn't go out before March. She
Well,
hibernates.
that's
So
why
good
I was
timing.
like, everybody's hibernating. Let's do it when like the energy of the city is like a bit more, people are excited and you want to go out and you're ready to like blossom again into the world.
Yes.
And
Oh,
so,
let's go
um,
blossom.
Yes.
yeah,
It's the birthday
come
month.
blossom
It
with
is my
us.
birthday month.
There you go.
So that
I
would
love
be
that.
great.
Okay, and that will be on Instagram, right? So we'll have to
Yes,
follow
I will
and
post about it. You can join my
and
mailing list. It's all on there and
Oh,
you'll
awesome.
fantastic.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah.
coming on the Soul Thrive podcast. I'm so glad
Oh,
we made this connection. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I know our audience is going to love this. And I'm going to have everything posted so you guys can connect and come to the events. That'd be great.
thank you so much. I love chatting with both of you. Thanks for having me.